news this week. Health experts identify the most dangerous recreational drug. Asia Bibi is allowed to appeal her death sentence for blasphemy. And a 95-year-old Holocaust survivor repays his debt.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Hello, it's great you could join us. Today we'll talk politics with Lyle Shelton in Canberra. Our resident dietitian Sue Rad will tell us what's so special about almonds. And we'll meet a man who's supporting Aussie Christian music at the coalface. But not before the news, Sibyl.
That's right, Kent. Some health experts are saying Australia's current preoccupation with the damaging effects of crystal methamphetamine, or ice, is misguided. Instead, they say the focus should be on the most damaging drug on the market, cheap alcohol. According to the New Daily, drug researchers have particularly singled out cask wine as being the preferred beverage of problem drinkers. They say evidence from overseas suggests governments should hike taxes for cheap alcohol products. But the political will to get tough on alcohol appears to be lacking, at least in New South Wales, where the government has backed down from introducing stricter regulations on licensed premises. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, the proposed changes were dropped before the last state election, after influential hospitality industry representatives raised objections. Meanwhile, church organisations such as the Salvation Army provide support and rehabilitation for problem drinkers. The Salvation Army, various Baptist groups and the Seventh-day Adventist Church continue to recommend an alcohol-free lifestyle. Last weekend's much-anticipated Labor Party conference in Melbourne saw a change in policy on same-sex marriage. Labor politicians will no longer be able to vote on same-sex marriage bills according to their conscience. Instead, party discipline will require them to support same-sex marriage as a bloc. For some years, the Liberal Party has also denied its parliamentary representatives a conscience vote on the issue, but their party policy is against same-sex marriage. And later in the programme, Kent Kingston will be chatting to Lyle Shelton from the Australian Christian Lobby about this and other issues coming out of the Labor Party conference. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan has been marked by deadly extremist attacks around the world. But in Indonesia's Papua province, it was Christians who were the aggressors. According to globalpost.com, a mob of hundreds attacked a mosque in Karubaga, throwing rocks and setting fire to it, as well as dozens of nearby buildings, after Christian worshippers were disturbed by the loudspeakers being used at the mosque. Police and military forces killed one person with gunfire and 10 others were injured as the riot was broken up and hundreds of Muslims were evacuated to the local military base. Christian leaders are calling for a careful investigation of the facts and say the indigenous Christians of Papua are facing constant and systematic discrimination. Pakistani Christian woman Asia Bibi has been given what may be her last chance to appeal against her death sentence for blasphemy. According to the BBC, Pakistan's Supreme Court has suspended Ms. Bibi's execution and ruled that she will be allowed to make an appeal. Asia Bibi has now been in prison for 6 years, the first woman to receive the death sentence under Pakistan's controversial blasphemy laws. Even if she were released, however, her life would be in danger. A series of death threats have been made against her and her family, who are currently in hiding. In 1938, Jewish teenager George Weidenfeld was assisted by Christian groups to escape Nazi-occupied Austria and settle in the UK. Now, 77 years later, he says it's time to repay the debt. 95-year-old Weidenfeld, who now holds a seat in the House of Lords, is funding a rescue mission that will see up to 2,000 Syrian and Iraqi Christian families airlifted to Poland, where they'll be able to live in safety. According to the Catholic Herald, Lord Weidenfeld will also cover the living expenses of the families for the first 12 to 18 months while they establish their new homes. A new international association has been founded for Seventh-day Adventists in high positions of government responsibility. In establishing the group, a number of Adventist politicians and other senior officials said they often feel isolated in their positions and misunderstood by fellow church members who are dubious about the compromises involved in holding public office. The world president of the Adventist Church addressed the inaugural meeting of the group at San Antonio, Texas, comparing them with biblical characters who held high office, such as Esther, Joseph, and Daniel. Due to the denomination's emphasis on education and service, scores of Adventists have risen to senior government positions, particularly in the Caribbean and the South Pacific. Evangelistically minded churches put a lot of effort into helping new believers come to faith, but a church in the remote South Pacific atolls of Tuvalu has been focusing on reconnecting with members who have left. The youth group from the Adventist Church in the capital Funafuti, together with 2 mission volunteers from Fiji, made the time to visit and pray with past church members in their homes in the lead-up to a series of public meetings. The series was well attended and culminated with 44 new believers and previous church members being baptized in the ocean. A new feature film retelling the beginnings of the Seventh-day Adventist movement has been received with enthusiasm by world church leaders.
Lindsay, what have I done?
Mr. Miller and those who listen to him suffer from a grand delusion.
If you would just give God a chance.
I did that already.
Tell the World is an Australian production and was mostly shot in an historic pioneer village in Canada. Church leaders are discussing how the 2.5-hour film can be used as an educational resource for young Adventists, new believers, and others whose knowledge of the church's beginnings is hazy.
So where's the Ancient of Days?
In heaven.
You have won thousands.
I shall never again doubt the faithfulness of Scripture.
I saw the Advent believers walking on a path, and as long as they kept their eyes on Jesus, they were safe.
The producers are yet to announce an official launch date for the retail market. Since before the Protestant Reformation, stories have been told of smugglers who carried precious copies of the Scriptures into difficult-to-reach areas. But new technologies are making the process a whole lot easier. Wycliffe Associates is supplying Bible translators in restricted countries with quality high-speed computer printers, along with binders, laminators, and paper cutters. Once translations are completed, the printer gets to work, producing hundreds of copies of Scripture portions for local believers, a lot easier than smuggling pallet loads of Bibles across international borders. The risk remains for churches meeting in restricted conditions. Possessing copies of the Scriptures is still seen as a criminal offence in some places. But for many Christians living with persecution, being able to have and share the Bible is worth the risk. And that's this week's news. Kent?
Thanks, Sibel. Stay with us. I'll be back in just a moment with Lyle Shelton and Politics in Focus.
So you think you've got your future all planned out, right? Or maybe you're not sure yet. What you want to do, who you want to be. A great education matters. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Welcome back. And joining us now from Canberra is Lyle Shelton from the Australian Christian Lobby. Hello, Lyle.
Hello, Kent. Good to be with you again.
Now, Lyle, last weekend there was a lot of attention on the Australian Labor Party conference in Melbourne. Same-sex marriage was one issue that generated a fair bit of heat, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was, Kent. There was a big push on to bind Labor parliamentarians to voting in favour of changing the definition of marriage. In the end, there was a compromise struck between the left and the right of the Labor Party, which split Bill Shorten's leadership team. But what they've decided to do is that by 2019, any Labor MP who votes in favour of supporting marriage between a man and a woman will be automatically expelled from the Labor Party. And that's quite an extreme position and a very disappointing place for the Labor Party to go to, because it means they have no room anymore for candidates for political office who support marriage between a man and a woman.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, the Liberals have also taken a fairly hard line, although with the opposite view, and are not allowing their members of conscience vote either, are they?
Well, it's a little bit different there with the Liberals. Yes, they've got a party position, but people aren't expelled if they vote against a party position. And as Barnaby Joyce proved, on many occasions, crossing the floor didn't even limit his ministerial ambitions. So there is a big difference there between the way the two parties handle people who vote against a party position.
OK. Now, another controversial decision coming out of the LP conference was to essentially fall in line with the government on turning back asylum seeker boats. Now, my question is, Lyle, how does either party seriously expect to make a thorough assessment of these people's refugee eligibility in the kind of time frame it takes to turn a boat around? Because that's what Bill Shorten's saying that they're committed to. That's
right, Kent. And what it means is that neither party has any intention of making any assessment about refugee claims of people who come by boats. They will just be pushed back to Indonesia. Now, both parties are saying the reason for this is they don't want people to drown at sea. And I think what they're essentially saying is that we need to rethink the Refugee Convention because it just is too dangerous. And we heard Tony Burke give a very emotional plea for Labor to support this policy, telling very emotionally about the death of a 10-week-old baby while he was Immigration Minister and how he did not want this to ever happen again. Yeah, and I guess, meanwhile there are plenty of men, women and children, suffering in our immigration detention camps. It seems like we're all at sea on this a bit. Hey, thanks for your time today, Lyle. Really appreciate it. Pleasure, Kent. Thanks for having us.
And now it's over to James Toogood and Sue Rad for Food in Focus.
Folks, it really is true. There is just nothing like almonds to improve your health. I mean, look at these. The skin on this almond, this tiny bit of skin is a prebiotic. We're going to tell you what it means later because we're with Sue Rad, nutritionist. Thanks so much for coming.
Hi, James.
You've got the good news about almonds and it's just fantastic. Tell us about them.
Absolutely. Almonds, like all nuts, are very good to prevent heart disease. So we're talking heart attack and stroke.
Yes.
There's lots of research showing they protect you from diabetes, but they even help your waistline.
This shocked me. Now, look, I knew about heart stuff and the good oils that are in the nuts and everything like that and the vitamin E, but waistline?
Well, there have been studies. For example, one study actually looked at people who were trying to lose weight and they put them on a low-calorie diet, but the group that got the almonds as part of their reduced calories actually lost 62% more weight than the group who did not get the nuts.
I was flabbergasted. What happens? How?
Well, they help with your satiety. They dampen that urge to eat when you're really hungry. So if you're driving home from work, for example, you're getting peckish, don't stop at the service station and buy a junk food, a chocolate bar or something. Grab a handful of almonds or some other nuts.
Yeah, what I want to know is when should you eat them? Like how long before the meal?
Anytime you feel like. So even just a few almonds can suppress appetite. So, it's going to stop you from snacking unnecessarily, but they won't make you gain weight.
And you were saying they even help us with brain health.
They do. In fact, there's been some really interesting recent research, particularly looking at longevity and how nuts may lengthen your life. A couple of new studies were published in 2015, one of them from the Netherlands, and they looked at 120,000 people.
120,000?
Yes, followed them up for quite a few years, and they showed that the people who consumed just 10 grams of nuts per day, so that's,
that's an almond heart box.
This is an almond heart box.
It's a jewellery box.
Which fits 30 grams, which is the amount that's recommended daily. But a third of that, just 10 grams on average per day, had a significantly lower risk of dying prematurely. And they found that they were dying less from conditions to do with your lungs, so like conditions to do with asthma or chronic obstructive airways disease and what they call neurodegenerative diseases. So that's to do with the brain. And they also found the usual, reduction of risk in heart attack and so on. But it's fascinating what these nuts can do.
So you open up a little heart box of almonds, you take 6 or 7 almonds, and it keeps your brain going.
Keeps your brain going and keeps your tummy going, so you're not snacking on junk in between.
You look sexy and you feel sexy.
That's
feel about right. For longer. Hey, tell us about the almonds that we have here.
So we've got a range of different almonds here. So these are our natural almonds in their skin, and these are just the roasted version. It's really important to keep the skin on. The skin, as you mentioned, has prebiotic properties. Yeah.
Just a little bit of skin.
Yeah, so the skin contains lots of antioxidants inside, and these antioxidants, called flavonols and catechins, actually work in food when you have a meal with other antioxidants in synergy, like an orchestra. So they protect vitamin C and vitamin E in their actions as antioxidants. So they promote the growth of good gut bacteria, which means they help with your immune system. But they also spare other antioxidants in the diet.
So that little bit of skin, that tiny bit of skin in 6 or 7 almonds makes a difference in your body.
So, you know, you could use those as snacks.
I'm going to chomp one round.
Grind them up. I often add them to my breakfast. But when you're going to cook something, sometimes in cakes or certain recipes, some people do remove the skin. So these are also really healthy. So these are our blanched almonds, slivered and flaked almonds, all really good. One of the questions I sometimes get for people who have problems with dentition or chewing is, but how am I going to eat them? I'm going to, you know, rip out a filling or crack a tooth. So here's a really simple idea that comes from Lebanon, and they will frequently soak almonds. When you soak them,
how long?
Just over the day or overnight, just in plain tap water, they soften. They become engorged and they become sweeter.
Was it okay if I stick my fingers in and grab one?
Absolutely. Okay. And you just change the water.
So I've had one dry one.
So...
Oh, it is soft. That was hard on that side.
So very easy to eat. So there's lots of ways to eat. Lots of ways to eat them.
It's like in sugar water. Is there sugar in the water?
Absolutely no sugar. So just plain tap water. So you can do that as a little way to make.
So any age.
Any age.
And when you want softer food, that's when you want to protect the brain.
And if you want it really, really soft, of course, you can always use almond meal in cooking. It's just ground up almonds, or use the almond spread or almond butter on bread. Great plant protein, great types of fats, loaded with fibres, good for your gut, loaded with antioxidants. Good for so many things.
I'll tell you what, Sue, I want to look healthy, I want to be healthy. I certainly want a healthy brain. I need some energy. I'm going to finish my 5 more almonds. Hey, folks, thanks for watching.
20 a day or 30 grams?
Okay.
Planning your future can be a daunting task. What you want to do, who you want to be, and the road ahead can often be unpredictable. No one really knows what the future holds. That's just part of what makes it all so amazing. And that's why a great education matters. Because it doesn't just help you get a great job, it helps you prepare for what life can throw at you and live a great life. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Signs of the Times, a magazine for a world on the brink. And this month in Signs, how one courageous woman stood up to ISIS and won. The only hope for repairing humanity's defective gene pool. A little veggie patch can benefit both your own health and the environment. Getting to know the different faces of God. All in this month's Signs of the Times. Subscribe to Signs today and change your life.
Hi, welcome back. Well, it's a privilege and a pleasure to have in the studio here with me today John Grinsell from Aussie Christian Gigs. How are you, John?
Yeah, good. Great to be here.
Yeah, that grin and gigs thing nearly tripped me up there.
That's right. Yeah, we like to grin. And we like to put a smile on people's face too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you focus on Christian music in particular?
That's right. Yeah, we're called Aussie Christian Gigs, and we're Aussie. We focus on Christian music, and of course, when we're talking about Christian music, it could be bands that call themselves Christians, or it could be bands or artists that are out there playing in pubs and things that are known as Christians.
Okay. And are you focused on a particular geographical area, or is this a sort of a coast to coast?
We focus. We call ourselves Aussie, so we focus on Australia. So we're trying to promote gigs and bands across Australia.
Oh wow! So Perth to Byron Bay, Cairns to Hobart.
That's right.
Anything is possible. So are you focusing on particular genres of music? I mean, if I was in a string quartet, for example, would I be sort of jumping on the Aussie Christian Gigs Facebook site and trying to promote myself
We're
there?
focusing if it's involved with music. And you've got an event, music, Christian music, we focus on that and we promote it from our Facebook page.
Okay. Well, okay.
Yeah.
It's a broad church, as they say.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I've been wondering over the last couple of years, is Christian music, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, I guess, is it on its last legs? Is it dying? I mean, just, a month or so ago we had Easterfest announcing that their annual festival is no more. So 2016 there'll be no Easterfest.
That's right.
A couple of years ago it was Parachute in New Zealand, and the Black Stump in Sydney. That festival's also gone. Do these sort of closures spell the end of Aussie Christian music?
No, certainly not. I suppose on the upside, we've got bands like Hillsong United and Hillsong Young and Free. They're going busters
poised
overseas.
To take over the world.
Yeah, that's right. They're poised to take over the seas. So, and you've got another one, another Australian band over in Nashville called for King and Country.
Okay.
Rebecca St James. So there's a lot of Christian artists actually around Australia doing very well. On the and we talked about you mentioned Easterfest and the festival sides of things. Of course, let's start off with Easterfest. We've seen of course they announced they had, and I was up there this year. They announced that that's the biggest Christian festival of around Australia. They probably had 10 or 20 or 30,000 attending that. That went for 17 years. They used to bring major overseas artists to come over here, like this last one. They brought Switchfoot over, and it was just amazing for Aussie Christian artists, because they would give them opportunities to play at Easterfest. Probably about 50 or 60 Aussie Christian bands or artists would come in. So of course they announced there was a decline in there had a bit of rain over the number of years, and you get the people through the gates. They couldn't sustain that. They're really hoping that something else fresh will start from that. And that's what we've seen in, you mentioned even Parachute. Parachute was over in New Zealand. That was a huge event. Now, they had to close down because of similar gate things. But what's happened as a part of that is that that's closed down. There's two new festivals started at the same time. And you mentioned Black Stump. Well, Black Stump's been going for over 20 years. I know, we've been to Black Stump for my children have been to Black Stump for many years, and they've grown up through Black Stump and they were just fantastic events. They're finished up. The good point about it is another festival has started. So this year, it's called Beyond Festival. It will be starting down in Canberra. It's based on a justice theme. There's still a Christian content there, but so it's all going well.
I've been watching that. Actually, it seems like it's going to be a very interesting festival.
So certainly things are changing. Things are the world is moving. Festivals are moving. What we're finding, and we probably read, particularly in the secular scene, with a lot of the big concerts, festivals too, they're finding the same things. So everything's adjusting, and everything's moving.
Do young people want to come out to see live music these days? Like if you have a cafe, or you're in a church hall, or you're at some venue putting on a concert, you are a young Christian band, are there audiences coming to those events?
Certainly. Particularly the sort of gigs and events we're promoting. We promote the big ones, and we promote the small ones in the youth cafes and things like that.
Now, John, right now you're involved in a particular project, a sort of what would you call it, a mixtape, a CD of sort of various artists all together?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one of the projects, we work on projects all the time, but one of the main projects we're working on, we've just completed, probably after 2 years, is bringing together 13 quality Christian artists, contemporary Christian artists from across Australia, to form a compilation CD called the Aussie Hope.
Okay, now, the Aussie Hope. If I was interested in hearing samples from that or purchasing it, how would I go about that?
Well, you can just go onto. It's available on iTunes. So you just go onto iTunes and you put in the words Aussie Hope, and it'll call it up. But the great thing about Aussie Hope is that all the profits raised will go to the work of a mission called Live Connection. Now, Live Connection, they support people in third world, pastors and people in third world countries.
Oh, okay, great.
The Aussie Hope project, it's showcasing 13 Christian artists that people might know about, but these are all quality recordings. It's a great album. It's a great listening album. It's not particularly, we focus not particularly on making it a rock album, but more an easy listening album. And of course, it's promoting the work of Live Connection, and all funding will go towards the people and the pastors in third world countries.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Now, John, you see this as a ministry. I know, you know, for some of our audience, perhaps maybe some older people, they say young people playing loud music. It's like, it's just entertainment. What's ministry about that? How would you answer that?
What we're trying to do is we're trying to, through these events and things like that, is trying to encourage people to come along to a Christian event. Many people probably wouldn't just walk into the church. It's very foreign to them. But you might have a Christian gig or a Christian event, a band night on a Saturday night that a young person or, you know, anybody, but particularly a young person might walk into, and from that point, they've actually been into a church. They think, oh, gee, it's not as foreign as we thought it was going to be. Yeah. And they meet friends, and from there they can go on and become part of the church and the youth group.
And I guess you're also ministering to the bands themselves, aren't you? Like helping them develop their talents and to find those opportunities to, you know, act on their gifts.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's part of the ministry of Aussie Christian Gigs. We want to... There's a lot of young bands out there, and of course, from what we said before, bands like Hillsong United and Hillsong Young and Free have actually come out of youth groups to be very... So you can get, you know, 13 and 14 and 15-year-olds forming up bands from their worship teams or something like that, and they get together and we just provide them, once they formalise their band, we provide them further support and direction on how to go about promoting themselves, how to make themselves look good on their, if they've got a Facebook page, and how to go about connecting and finding other gigs. So we're there, and we get message on our Facebook page all the time saying, well, what do we do here? What do we do here? So we just provide them a bit of support from our point of view, and they basically appreciate it, because there's no one out there. There's not a lot of other people out there who are interested in that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so if you're a young band out there, or you know, maybe a friend or relative of a young band, check out Aussie Christian Gigs on Facebook, and yeah, you might get chatting to John, or certainly have an opportunity to promote your event. Hey, thanks so much, John. I really appreciate you coming in and giving us a little bit of a profile of what you've been doing.
Great, yeah, great to be here. Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
We'll see you after the break.
Every week, It Is Written is available to millions of free-to-air viewers throughout Australia, New Zealand, New Guinea and the Pacific. It Is Written's Gary Kent regularly takes viewers to the far corners of the globe to report on new evidence and discoveries that confirm the Bible and Christian beliefs. It Is Written also provides medical care to remote Pacific Island communities. Join Gary Kent each week for It Is Written. See television guides and the It Is Written website for broadcast times. It Is Written with Gary Kent. It really is television that changes lives.
Hello, now before you go, we'd just like to remind you to stay in touch and send us a comment from time to time on your response to InFocus.
All the standard options are there: email, Facebook and Twitter. Let's have a conversation.
Yes, that's it for us from this week. God willing, we'll catch you again next time.
All the best.
Bye.